I still feel like things How's it going? Good to see you.
God's peace quiets my mind, calms my emotions, and relaxes my body. Prayer quickens my divine facilities for love, wisdom, understanding, and order. I am guided to organize my time in a way that allows to fulfill important commitments, contribute to my own and others' spiritual growth, and provide the physical activity and rest my body needs. Divinely guided, I also recognize and release activities that do not contribute to my highest good. I feel God's guidance, presence, as my day unfolds in divine order. I affirm I have time, faith, and strength enough to do all these things that need to be done by me. From Proverbs, the clever do all things intelligently.
So this morning, I would like to talk about giving and abundance. We sang about it. Love is something if you give it away. So this morning, we're not going to talk about money. No, we're talking about spiritual abundance. Charles Fillmore says that spiritual abundance is ideas in our consciousness. It's about our mental state. It's an idea of the omnipresent supply and support that we get from the one mind. And related to abundance is the idea of prosperity. Prosperity is based on our conscious possession, not some car that we drive, some shoes that we wear, clothes, house, TV. No. Our prosperity comes from the idea of God's abundance in the back of all things. So right there you see Luke. Give, and it will be given to you. It will be pressed down, shaken together, and running over. We just have to give it. We get what we give. Maybe not exactly the same. And we have to be patient because things happen in their own time. But giving in the right mental attitude creates prosperity. That's Charles Fillmore. There's this idea of charity. It's kind of become corrupted in our modern usage of the word into a giving of money, a donation of money to an organization or to some person. But charity, in its original sense of the word, is the highest form of love. In Greek, it translates that word agape, that divine love. That is the word that translates into charity. It is that highest form of love that we sang about in the Penny Song. All right, so as we're in this giving, what is it that we can give? We're asked to give everything. Love the Lord your God with all your might, all your heart, all your soul. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's everything. Now look inside yourself. Just take a moment to pause and check in with yourself. When I said that you have to give everything, what kind of thoughts entered your mind? Did you think about what you might have to lose to give everything? Was there any kind of lack feeling? So pay attention to this now. If we're all one, when I give, I'm giving to myself. We're going to say that. We're going to affirm that at offertory time. Is what we seek, that peace that our mind can never comprehend, the light that extends beyond all our thoughts of time and space, the kingdom of heaven. Is that what we seek? So how do we get that? Your passion, your desires, they are the key to unlocking this door. You must desire over all things. Over all things. You must be willing to give up everything you perceive in this world in order to enjoy the light that extends past this world. You must want it above all things, and only then will it be yours. But am I really giving anything up? If I'm giving this, is there someone outside of me I can give it to? If we are one? No. When I give it to myself. Alright? We're practical Christianity. We don't just read about these things. We don't just talk about these things. We put them to use in our life. All right, so what did Luke say? He said, give, and it will be given to you. All that I give to myself. We sing it every Sunday. Unconditional love. And charity. I see the Christ in you. I see it in everyone. I am giving that vibration as I see that Christ in you. And as I see that Christ in you, my vibration lifts. Because when I see that divinity in you, when I recognize our oneness, I can no longer hate. I can no longer act in violence. I can no longer hurt another. There is only that love. So what do I give? In the tradition in India, there's a word they use called namaste. It is the divine light in me bows to the divine light within you. It's seeing that Christ light in everyone. Last night we watched a movie. I heard Cliff talk about it. It's called The Moses Code. As God gives to itself, and I say it, not herself or himself, because we're all included in that. You are that giving. God gives through us. We are expressions of God in this universe. And we give, when we give, that is God giving. So how do we come to realize that oneness and really see it and experience it? Because we can talk about it, we can read about it till we're blue in the face. It doesn't matter how many books or how many talks you sit through. If we don't experience it somehow, we'll never know it. Because it doesn't make sense. All of our lives we've been taught that we are a separate person. I mean, from the very beginning when we were little babies, we saw Mommy out there and we were over here and then Daddy out there. We've been taught through our education to experience the world as separate. We sense it as separate. So how do we get past that? So they talked about an exercise that we can do in that movie last night. He calls it the Moses Code. And it's really simple. You see the burning bush up there. Moses went up on the mountain and there was a burning bush. And he was given his calling to go to Egypt and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt. And he didn't really think that he was up for it. He says, I don't even talk good. Why me? It's going to be you. He said he's going to give him all the help that he needs. And Moses says, well, when I go over there, who am I going to say sent me? He says, the burning bush says to Moses, or at least he hears it from the burning bush, say, the I am that I am sent you. And the Moses Code says that our King James translation is leaving out a little punctuation symbol. The comma. So it goes, I am that. I am. And that is our practice. And let me explain how it works. Because I started doing this as soon as I heard about it. I thought, wow, wow. So I went to work. It's one of my favorite places to play with these ideas is at work, because I've got 10 hours and I'm getting my job done. But I've got all of these situations that would be really easy to lose it over, because there's other people at work, and in the nature of the work there's always a problem to be solved, and when you get a couple of people and they disagree, there's a situation. So there's all this opportunity for spiritual growth when I go to work. So that's one of my favorite places to practice. And so I had a new tool in my spiritual toolbox that I wanted to use. And so every time, and I don't know why, but it was so easy to remember to pull this particular tool out of my toolbox. Every time there was a situation, I would say, I am that. Sometimes it was a ridiculous thing for me to even think about. And after that comma comes the I am. And so I would say, yes, I am. And I would smile. And it would allow me to, just kind of, whoo, just let it go. Just let it roll off. I am that. I can remember someone saying something just completely ridiculous. And I knew it wouldn't work. I am that. I am. There was, someone didn't order what we needed to complete the job. So here we are, we've got thousands of dollars worth of parts, but we don't have the rivets to install them. I am that. I am. See, I like to use that I am part to make a playfulness out of it. Because instead of working on myself, I like to play with these ideas. And what it does is it allows me to forgive. To forgive myself whenever sometimes I forget to play with the idea. And Cliff brought up last night that I am is when I own it. I am that. I am. That just really draws it into a oneness. So I practiced this as much as I could for 2 good days. And I was just amazed at how well it worked. And the love that I felt when I got done saying it. In a situation where normally I would start to get that tension in my back and the stress would start to come in because, gosh, we don't always do things in a way that makes sense, and it can be very frustrating, but I am that, and I am. And I felt better. So after those 2 days, my wife and I, my wife is an angler. She's a pro fisher person. She likes the word angler because that doesn't connotate gender. And she drives this old truck. It's a 1990 big truck, but she has to pull a boat around, so she needs a truck. And she's good about it. She does the work on herself. I mean, it's amazing to me because I'm not a mechanical person. It's not my thing to get under the engine and get all greasy and stuff, but she can do. And she does. All right, so she had already had a starter go out on this truck and put a starter on it. And doggone if it didn't break down on her in Boaz. Now, I don't know if you know what Boaz is, but that's a good little piece. Even from Aaron. So her truck's stuck at the boat mark. And the boat mark guy, he works on boats. He doesn't work on trucks. He helped her all he could, maybe, I'll lend you a tool here or there. So it's hot. this is early summer, this summer. You know, we're talking about May or June, and it wasn't during that week where we had that cool spell. It was hot. I got off work on Friday. Sometimes on Fridays we get off at noon because we work 10-hour shifts. So our time's up, and so I drove over here where she's been working on trying to get the starter off for 2 days. And what happened was, you know, a hex, it's got 6 sides. Well, 3 different ways you can grab the thing, and if it doesn't have corners, it doesn't have any. If it's round, there's nothing for the wrench to get on. And this particular nut had been taken off and put on so many times that it didn't have corners left. She was trying everything she could to get to that thing. And here's the deal, it wasn't just right there available. And not only is she under the truck, but I got under there to look. I brought me what's called pipe wrench, because it's got teeth on it. And it's made to grab a round pipe and get it loose. Well, there was no way a pipe wrench was going to fit into the little crevice, the little space where the starter was bolted up. There was a line, hydraulic line, some kind of line that was, you know, that far from the nut. And I got this pipe wrench, it's this long, it's that thick, and it just wasn't going to work. And I had a sermon to prepare, okay? This is the weekend. That's my time to get ready for church. You know, so I knew I wasn't going to be able to come over here and do this again on Saturday. It had to be taken care of on Friday. And now I love my wife, but she could be stubborn. She was determined to get that nut off herself and not accept any help. And finally, I talked her into, because it was hot.
It was hot.
Yeah, really, you can't appreciate the story unless you realize how hot it was. And we weren't under a shade tree. It was right there in the yard of this boat mart where the truck was sitting, where it wouldn't start at, you know, in the parking lot. So I finally convinced her we need to get some help. And I had my car, because I drove over there where she was working on the truck. And so we got in the car, and we drove back towards town, because we were actually not in Boaz. We were in a little place called Sardis, which is between Boaz and Gadsden. It's kind of not much there at all, but there's a boat mart there. And the guy's really good at fixing boats. So that's why she goes all the way to Sardis to get her boat fixed. Anyhow, we get in my car, and we're driving back through Boaz, looking for places that could work on a truck, because we're not from Boaz. We don't know anything about the place. And right there by Walmart, there's a place that, you know, looks like they change oil and do stuff like that, but they also can work on starters. And I know this because I stopped somewhere else that doesn't do starters, and they said, oh, you might try this other place. So we went there, and I got a quote. He says, if you can get the truck to us, we can replace the starter. The labor will be $104. All right, so I was like, okay, we got someone who can do it. They won't be able to do it now until probably next week, Monday or Tuesday. So I'm like, well, Krisha, get on your phone, Google towing in this area. So she did. She found a wrecker service and called them. And they gave us the estimate it would cost $60 for them to get the truck, hook it up, and carry it over here to this place in Boaz. So, all right, we're moving. So we go back over there to the truck, and we're waiting on the tow truck. And it wasn't long at all. I mean, he must have been right there already. So he pulls in with this, it's not really a tow truck, you know, with the hook. It's they call it a rollback. You know, the whole bed rolls down, and they pull it up there. So we watch her truck go on there, and it looks good up there on that rollback too. That's my truck, she said. But yeah, it is. They go back to their shop. They have their own shop, this tow truck people. And we're following him. I mean, it's all right. We're following him. We don't know, actually, we didn't tell him to go to this other place. So he doesn't know. He's just towing the truck. I mean, maybe that was our mistake, but maybe not. Wait till you hear the rest of the story. So we arrive at this little rink-dink. I mean, it looks like it's fixing to fall in garage, cement block. And it's one of them, it's back off the road where we'd never seen it driving by. I mean, there was just no way we'd have ever known that it was even there. It's time to go home. It's Friday, and it's closing time. So when we pull up, he says, when do you need the truck by? Well, she says, I'm going to go fishing tonight. I want to go fishing tonight. Well, it turns out the guy that was driving the truck, he fishes too.
So he gets it.
He understands. That's right. Yeah. You know, and so I'm trying to mold, to be the intermediary, the moderator, the one who kind of smooth, we need it just as soon as we can get it. And he says, well, let me talk to my mechanic because he's fixing to go home. This is the young fellow. The guy that drove the tow truck and the other guy that comes out, who is obviously the shop foreman or maybe even the owner, they're probably right hitting 60. The other fella, he's probably not even 30 yet. And he agrees to stay and work on our starter. Okay. Now remember, this isn't just changing the starter, because that is round. That's supposed to have corners. See? This fella, he's confident. He says, I can do it. I can definitely do it. And see, the other thing is the other two guys, they're not the mechanic. They get under the truck and they're trying all these things. And he's like, he's coming over and talking to me. He says, if they just get out of the way, I could get this done. Eventually, they give up and say, yeah, we can't do it. And he gets over there and he tries several different things. And he goes back to his toolbox and then he's hunting in a couple other places. And he tries every tool he can think of. They put heat on it. Because when you put heat on metal, it expands, And so they're hoping that maybe when they put the heat on, the nut will get a little bit bigger and it'll break loose easier. That doesn't work either. He gets a chisel. He gets a chisel and a hammer. And he knocks little grooves in that nut. It's like he's making corners. The little grooves go so that when the wrench goes around, it's going to hit into these grooves, you see? So if the wrench is turning this way, the groove's that way. And you know what? He gets that nut off of there. And he goes home. Now, we got a bad starter, and we've already replaced the starter once. She's got the core for the old starter, which, that's what you got to return to get your money back. And now we got another core, so we've got two cores in the truck. But there's an O'Reilly's in Boaz, which is where she bought it. So we need another starter, and we need the nut. Well, actually, it's actually, I've been saying it all along, it's not a nut, it's a bolt. There's two bolts that hold the starter on. They bolt through the starter. Okay, I know, I'm getting over this. It's exciting.
We're good.
Okay, so these guys want to go home too. I'm sure they've got families. They've got things to do on Friday night. But the one who's driving the tow truck, he looks underneath her truck once it's up on the lift. And he says, that muffler's about to fall off of there. And then he was talking, I heard him talking to my wife just while the mechanic was getting the nut off, that he used to have a truck just like that truck when he was younger. Like in 90. Because it's a 1990 model truck. So he's having positive memories of this truck that he used to have. Okay? This is significant. So we get in my car and we go to the parts store. I drop her off at O'Reilly's to get the starter, and I had the Tractor Supply so I can get hardened bolts. Long story short, we got the supplies and we head back, and we're back to the garage. And when we get in there, they've got the torch out. They have taken that muffler system, the exhaust system, and they rerouted it, and they're putting a new bracket on there so that the muffler won't fall off. It didn't cost any extra parts, because all they did was have to bend the existing muffler and move the bracket to a different place. And they fixed her muffler that was about to fall off on the highway. They get the new starter bolted up on there, and I'm like, okay, well, let's go in here in the office and take care of, getting this paid for. And he says, well, we don't really need to go in the office. If you've got $100, we'll call it even. Now, remember, that other place was going to charge me $100 just for the labor on the starter. I was owing them $60 for the towing fee already, so that's at least $160. And they fixed the muffler just out of the goodness of their own heart. I mean, really. So I keep a $100 bill in my wallet just for emergencies. Because you never know whether you're not going to take a credit card. And I knew he was talking about a $100 bill, not get out my credit card, because we weren't going to go into the office, so I handed him $100. Well, I got over to the side, I got my wallet. Whenever we were done and they started that car, the starter, when the starter worked, I handed him the $100, because you don't pay a contractor till the job is done. That's important. Don't pay a contractor until the job is finished. So, we paid, man, and I mean, it was a miracle. To me, these are people we didn't even know. And I'm driving back, and she's in her truck, and I think I passed her, she passed me, but that doesn't matter. I was on the road by myself now. And this overwhelming feeling that I'm going to call compassion, we might use that word charity, came across me. It was like a wave. It was this energy field that projected. It just went everywhere, and not just in front of me like on that, but behind me. And I remember sending gratitude, blessing to those people that helped us, and to Spirit. And it gives me chill bumps right now to remember it, because that feeling was just so overwhelming. I told the story to my dad and he said, and my mother. She said, God was really watching out for you. And I agree. And I really think that all that practice that I had been done with that oneness had put up some energy there. I don't believe any of this was an accident. It was an energy of oneness that I felt. And I want to close with these two sentences. They're James Twyman, and it's Spirit talking through James Twyman. A simple loving glance in the direction of another can bring more peace than all the governments of the world. A hand extended to another frees more energy than all the sources of power on this planet. All right, now you know. It only works if you work it. We can talk about it all day till we're blue in the face. And if you think you know it, well, that's good, but are you working it? Because it only works if you work. Thank you all.